Hello Leo listeners, Cara here from leolisting.com, where I help intrepid travellers and adventurous expats improve their English listing skills so they can better connect with native speakers. So this video is for you if you've ever wanted to get off the intermediate plateau. So let me tell you a little story about when I was learning to drive. I do have a driving license. Apparently I'm allowed to drive. But while I was learning, I didn't realize that I would encounter so many plateaus along the way. So what I mean by that is periods where no matter what I did, I didn't improve. So I would master something, 3-point turn, that kind of thing, and things seemed to be going really well, and then it would just stop and I would get very frustrated. But this is normal because sadly in life progress is not linear. So you don't just start something and keep getting better and better and better until you reach perfection. Instead you make a bit of progress and then you get stuck on a plateau, then you make a bit more progress, you might even regress a bit and then get stuck again, and so on. And the same thing happens in language learning. It's incredibly easy, but totally normal to get stuck at various plateaus. Now, for some people, this might not matter. So, for instance, I agree with Benny Lewis's definition of fluency. So he says he can get to fluency after 3 months of intensive study because he's aiming for a B1 level in his target language. So in other words, an intermediate level. Now, when I came to France, my French was probably about a B2 level. So I considered myself fluent because even if I didn't have all the vocabulary and grammar, I could make myself understood in most situations. So my French was far from perfect, but it was certainly enough to move to a new country without needing an interpreter by my side. So I was already fluent, and my goal in moving to France was not to become fluent, it was to become proficient. So I wanted to sound like a native French speaker and integrate into French life and be accepted, and language is a big part of that. For many people on YouTube who are learning English around the world, proficiency is not a goal. So you might just use English occasionally when you travel or as a common language between you and another non-native English speaker. So for most people, B1 is a great goal and totally sufficient for your needs. And it's almost controversial to say this because so many people are pushing for people learning English to have perfect English when it's just not necessary. So I have intermediate Spanish and I have no intention of improving it further. So I go to Spain sometimes, but that's it. It's not a big part of my life. So if your goal is to reach a B1 level, or if you're happy at B1 level, then that's great. You can stop watching here. But if you want to move abroad or you plan to travel a lot in English-speaking countries, then it's worth your time getting off this intermediate B1 plateau. Now, if you're like me, you're probably really motivated to move abroad and you'll do what it takes to improve your level. But that doesn't mean it will happen by magic. So before I moved to France, I did a lot of immersion in French. So I read in French, I listened to the radio, I watched movies, etc., etc. But I didn't really know how to take what I learned and use it in my own French. That's something that only became a bit easier once I actually moved abroad. So anyway, one of the problems that can happen when you get to that good enough fluent level in your English, paying attention to the details. And this is the danger of the general idea mentality. Now, obviously, if you're B1 level and you're reading native level material, then the best you can hope for is probably the general idea because the material is too difficult. So it's a useful notion, but if you're hoping to move beyond the general idea, you have to stop being satisfied with just catching the general idea. And nowhere is this more true than in listening. So it's noble and well-meaning of teachers to tell you, just try to catch the main idea. But why stop there? They're doing you a disservice by not going in deeper. So when you go beyond just listening and just the general idea, you start to create a path towards proficiency in English. You reinforce your grammar knowledge, you absorb more grammar, you learn vocabulary and expressions without having to learn lists or watch a bazillion YouTube videos. You learn how to pronounce English in a natural sounding way, and of course, you can interact with native speakers more easily because you can catch what they're saying to you, and you can sound more like them too. So how do you actually use detailed listening to get yourself off the intermediate plateau and on the high road to proficiency instead? Well, you'll need a couple of tools and resources first. So these are texts, headphones, and conversational materials. So by text, I mean a transcript or subtitles. So in other words, the written version of what you're listening to. This is the most important ingredient. Without a text, you're a bit like Jon Snow, you know nothing. So you might think that you're missing bits of what you listen to because you don't know the words. The truth is that most of the time you don't catch words you already know because of how they sound in fast speech. But you can only check this if you have a transcript. Depending on your level, you might also want to listen with a transcript as you listen, but I prefer for my students to refer to it after to check their work. Headphones. So when you want to improve your English listening skills, you need to stack the deck in your own favor. So in your own language, you unconsciously decode everything you hear with occasional errors or miscommunication, right? It's automatic. When you're learning a new language, you have to make a greater effort to catch what you hear because you're not at the stage where you can unconsciously decode it. So you need to make your life as easy as possible. And one way to do this is to use headphones because they can give you an instant listening skills upgrade. This is especially important when you're doing detailed listening where you want to catch everything. Headphones will just make it easier for you. So the third ingredient, conversational material. So one of the biggest mistakes I see you making is using the wrong materials. So when you want to understand fast conversational English, then you need to listen to that type of English. So listening to a TED talk or an audiobook won't actually help you. So it doesn't mean you can't listen to them, but it's a bad idea to train your ears with them. If that's all you do, then you'll be disappointed when you try to understand real English speakers on the street. Personally, I prefer using short movie or TV show clips. They're a bit closer to what you would hear in real life. So what do you do when you've got all these tools? Well, here's the process that I go through with my students. So listen to the clip or extract, and rate how much you understand as a percentage. Don't use subtitles or a transcript at this stage. Choose 3 difficult sections and write out what you hear. The sections should be short, 10 seconds maximum. Listen 3 to 5 times. Don't go crazy or you'll just get frustrated and give up. When you're ready, compare what you wrote to the transcript or the subtitles. So this is where it gets interesting and you start to learn things. So what did you miss? Did you miss words you already know? Did you miss new words? Why do you think you missed them? That's the most important question, and a teacher can help you figure that part out. Try to imitate the speech from these difficult sections, record yourself and compare to the original. If there are new words or expressions, use an app like Memrise to create an online vocab book for them with audio. And there's nothing better for cementing new words and expressions than using them. So when I work with students, I encourage them to use new words and expressions that they've picked up from listening material in their own speech. So, is just listening enough to really get proficient in English? Well, maybe, but over a really long period of time, and most of us don't have years and years and years to get there. So yeah, and why would you wait when you just have to make a few small changes that I described for you? And these changes mean that you'll understand so much more and you'll be able to integrate native sounding words and expressions into your speech. So let me know if you have any questions about this detailed listening method for getting to proficiency in the comments, and if you try it out, let me know how you get on. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to hear more from me, In the description, you'll find the link to my mini movie guide, which you can download for free, and it will show you how to understand fast spoken English using movie clips. And you'll also join my email list to get regular updates from me on improving your listening skills. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.